The mental health crisis is going to be cured first by taking care of our core physiology. And then if you're inclined, it makes sense to explore a spiritual leaning. If you're willing to explore those two areas, you can make better choices. Trying to find one choice in the daytime that's going to change everything, that's futile.
Yeah. With the rise in suicide among the youth since the dawn of social media, how can teens and young adults, or anybody, reset their chemical imbalances being overloaded with dopamine from all the social media sites, video games, fast food, binge watching TV, and other facilitators of instant gratification?
Great question, critically important question. There has to be self-imposed discipline, but it doesn't have to be in every domain of one's life, right? People need to get their relationship to light, sunlight, and darkness correct. This might sound silly, but there's a beautiful study that substantiates what I'm about to say. There's a study done on over 80,000 subjects out of the UK. The conclusion is essentially the following. Getting enough sunlight early in the day, and yes, even when it's cloudy out, there's sunlight. Just compare how bright it is during the daytime to nighttime, even on a cloudy day, folks. Getting some sunlight in your eyes and bright light, maybe also from artificial sources throughout the day, and then keeping it dark at night. It doesn't have to be pitch black, but on most nights between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., unless you're doing shift work, and we could talk about that, thank you, shift workers. But keeping it dark at night and getting light in your eyes during the day has been shown additively to offset many of the negative effects of things like depression, OCD, ADHD, bipolar disorder. In other words, just keeping your room darker at night when you're trying to sleep has a positive effect on mental health. Getting light in your eyes, especially sunlight early in the day and throughout the day, tremendously positive effect on mental health. Okay, people will start negotiating. Can I do it through a window? Can I look at a video of a sunset? No, you go outside, you get some sunlight in your eyes. Without sunglasses, eyeglasses and contacts are fine. You're setting your physiology right. This circadian, this 24-hour schedule that we're on is dictated by light through the eyes at particular times of day and darkness other times of day, eyelids closed. The use of phones and screens, well, fantastic, right? It's done amazing things for our progression as humans and communication, is disrupting our circadian schedules and health, in particular mental health. It's not just the content people are receiving on these devices, it's also the light itself. It's also the content, but the light itself. So get that right. It requires no cost and it sets things in the right direction. The second thing would be, while getting that morning sunlight, if you're not already exercising in the morning, you want to walk, just walk in a circle if you have to. Walk towards the sunlight, okay? These aren't complicated things. They don't take a lot of time. They take no financial cost, okay? No money. Then it would be wise to get some exercise early in the day, right? Jocko's right on this one, okay? Maybe you don't have to do it at 4:30, but being an early riser and getting some activity early in the day and sunlight in your eyes does a bunch of things. You have a pulse of cortisol every 24 hours. A quote unquote stress hormone. It's not a bad hormone, it's a great hormone, but you need it released at its highest levels early in the day. How do you do that? Sunlight in your eyes increases that peak by about 50%. If you're not doing that, you start running into trouble. Exercising and getting sunlight in your eyes early in the day times that cortisol peak. We know from studies at Stanford School of Medicine by a guy named David Spiegel and the great Robert Sapolsky that if that cortisol peak is shifted later in the day, you start getting symptoms of depression, anxiety, failure to sleep, and the whole thing cascades. So when I say discipline, I could list off 20 things that one could and should do. But this mental health crisis has to be attacked at two different levels and two very disparate sides. I'm describing the first one. You got to get your physiology right. Get that cortisol peak. Early day sunlight will also promote dopamine, epinephrine, all of that. Get some activity early in the day. Get a rope or a jump rope and skip rope looking at the sun if you have to. Some people say burpees, then people start arguing about burpees, but some exercise and sunlight early in the day. Okay. And of course, then some hydration. Then at night, most nights, it's fine every once in a while to go out and have a good time, but most nights you want to try and get it dark. Wear an eye mask if you need to. Throw a t-shirt over your eyes if you're like me, if it's not dark enough in the room. You don't need anything fancy here. And work on getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Some people can get away with 5. Some people can't sleep that much. Some people need more, but get that right. And when people do that for 3-4 days, it's remarkable how much better they feel. It is astounding. You start making better choices about how often to be on your phone with social media. You actually start limiting that time. You start making better choices about what you eat, about who you interact with, what you say and don't say, what you do and don't do. You start to explore whether or not you need dosages of stimulants that are as high as the ones that you're currently taking and being prescribed, or whether or not you could eventually taper off. I'm not suggesting anyone suddenly go off medication they need, right? You start looking at alcohol differently because it disrupts your sleep. You start looking at other practices like learning and reading. Okay, so getting your physiology right sets the ball in motion. And then, as will probably come up multiple times during today's episode, you need some tool to learn to calm your mind, right? Your mind is going to spool. Nobody has a mind that's calm all the time and focused when they want it to be and falls asleep perfectly every night. Nobody gets that. No human being gets that, okay? So you have to put some work into it. That involves doing, maybe it's 5 minutes of meditation a day. I'm a big believer in prayer. I think that combines a number, if not all of the features of the things that we hear about, like meditation and all these other things, into a practice that if you spend some time with it, I think it can be very useful. Okay, I'm not here to push that. I just know that to be true. So get your physiology right, and the rest will start falling into place. And, the online culture, my podcast, your podcast, Rogan podcast, and other podcasts, is replete with information about how to exercise right, how to eat right, how to do all these things, building your social connections, which are also vitally important. But if you're not getting your physiology right, the rest isn't going to work. It's just not going to work. You're going to have a very hard time sticking to anything. So the mental health crisis is going to be cured first by taking care of our core physiology. It starts with light, sleep, daytime behavior, of course, then hydration, nutrition, exercise, and all of that. But it starts with getting those things right. And then if you're inclined, it makes sense to explore a spiritual leaning. That can mean different things to different people, but if you're willing to explore those two areas, I'm willing to bet that within weeks, if not months, you can make substantial progress, and people start to feel that sense of agency, like, whoa, this is wild. I'm sleeping a little bit better and I'm feeling a lot better. I'm sleeping a lot better and I'm feeling a lot better. And all of a sudden, you can make better choices. Trying to find one choice in the daytime that's going to change everything, that's futile.
Yeah.
You might as well be asking for one pill that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't think you can do this, then the physiology stuff, then start on the prayer side and pray for it and then go in that way. Whatever it takes to try and explore this, do it. That's my message, because it absolutely can be done.
Man, it doesn't sound like it takes much. I mean,
it doesn't. It's the consistency. And people are accustomed to doing something that, quote unquote, works the first time and every time. And there are certain practices that we'll discuss during today's discussion, I'm sure, that can calm us down very quickly, that work the first time and every time because they're grounded in physiology. But these things like getting a good night's sleep, getting sunlight, at first it's subtle. And then pretty soon you start to notice, yeah, I'm waking up and feeling more energized during the day. I don't need quite as much caffeine. Or I don't need, I'm finding that time on social media is great. I mean, I teach on social media, and so of course I like social media and I like content on there, including some silly content. But, do I really need to spend that much time with this? Or this is kind of robbing me of some key life.
Do you know how much time you spend on social?
So I have a new practice now where I have a phone with Instagram and X on it, and that's it. No one has the number. And if I need to post, I airdrop things on there and I post. But by virtue of that, I know exactly how much time I spend on there, and it's about an hour and a half. But I'm also posting quite a bit on there. But that's an hour and a half where, I know that, one could be writing or, building out business. But for me, that's part of my business, because I'm obviously in online culture and podcasting. So about an hour and a half.
That's really good.
And having a separate phone for it really helps. Because when people send me things, I can't look at it. I have to send those on to my other phone. So there's a barrier there. But, I'm not here to demonize online culture. My profession is online culture, but, or part of it. But this mental health crisis starts with people understanding that they can take control of their physiology and they can take control of their mind. And it sounds so complicated, but it's actually not.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.